Hello, my name's Steven Zeiner, and this is the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. However, no, we're not going to do the update from out here. We're going to head back into the studio and start it from there. But I wanted to at least acknowledge how lovely the weather is and to encourage you, not that I'm into giving anybody else advice, but hey, if it's going to be nice weather, either later today or perhaps this weekend, wherever you happen to live, I'd encourage you to get outside. I just find that it's a wonderful thing to do. So with all of that said, let's head inside and let's get this update started. Okay, so here we are in a much more familiar setting. So it has been 2 years since Stronghold Digital Mining came to market, right, through an IPO. And unlike many of our peers in the publicly traded Bitcoin mining industry, we chose to walk in through the front door of the SEC, right? We went through the traditional vetting process, and that's something that I'm certainly very proud of and that I think you should be proud of as well. So in the ensuing 2 years, right, the stock price, as we both know, has really taken a beating, like a significant beating. And needless to say, the stock price is the one thing that arguably all of us have a vested interest in seeing go up in value. Okay. Now, I've said this before. I live, practically, almost like right in front of what would have been Stronghold Digital Mining's third plant, right? This was mentioned in the IPO materials. There was a third plant for which a letter of intent had already been drafted. And I have every bit of confidence that if Bitcoin, which at the time was hitting all-time highs, right? It was like 70,000 a coin, more or less, maybe 79,000. Hey, if Bitcoin had continued going up, hey, maybe it's 140,000, then 350,000, 800,000, 1.2 million. Yeah, the company more than likely would have purchased that third plant, and that would have become, so to speak, my home plant, right? I would still probably visit Panther Creek now and then, right, to check out what's going on because I am in that area, fairly often. But this particular third plant, I am like quite literally going by it almost every single day. That is another reason why I'm so passionate about the mission and purpose of what Stronghold Digital Mining is attempting to do. Because at the end of the day, I live in Pennsylvania. I drink the water. I breathe the air. So, I am like 1,000% interested in seeing these purpose-built facilities continue to do what they were designed to do, which is to clean up this mess that exists in various pockets here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania of this stuff that we call waste coal, coal refuse, gob out in western Pennsylvania, culm here in eastern Pennsylvania, whatever you want to call it, it is just garbage, it's junk, and it shouldn't be here anymore. So I'm passionate about seeing that continue. However, we as co-owners of the business, as shareholders of the business, right? Something that we can all, regardless of where you live, we can all come together and say, hey, we also want the stock price to do really, really well. So as I have alluded to in previous broadcasts, it would be really helpful for Stronghold Digital Mining, as well as the entire publicly traded Bitcoin ecosystem, Bitcoin mining ecosystem, if we were to see the price of Bitcoin itself really start to move up in price ahead of the halving, which is probably going to take place sometime in April or maybe May of 2024. The reason why that's important is because it will help usher in potentially a change in market sentiment as it relates to not just Bitcoin, but Bitcoin miners as a whole, right, of which we are one. So I think we're starting to slowly but surely see that, right? Bitcoin, as I'm creating this broadcast, is at around $29,000, I think like $400 a coin. That is pretty much right at the threshold of $30,000 per coin. Now, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission opted not to challenge the litigation, the results of the litigation with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, therefore likely leading to a scenario whereby we might very well see a spot Bitcoin ETF here in the United States sometime potentially sooner rather than later, okay? If to the extent a spot Bitcoin ETF truly plugs a Bitcoin into Wall Street in a far more direct manner, then I think there's an argument to be made that we might see continued uplift in the price of Bitcoin. That by itself is going to help shares, I believe, of Stronghold Digital Mining, because again, it's going to usher in a more of a, I think, a jubilation, right? A more euphoric sentiment of like, hey, you know what? Things are maybe starting to turn around now. And that type of sentiment shift is going to be absolutely critical for shares of our company to start to perform a lot better in the stock market. Now, there's something else that I think bears mentioning as well, right? So in addition to there being a shift in sentiment as it relates to, the price of Bitcoin and, how the market perceives Bitcoin mining companies, I do think that Stronghold Digital Mining itself will have to continue to produce, positive, productive, constructive operational results. And I mean, the company has been doing that, right? I mean, we've seen that in our investor presentations. We see that there's been an effort, a tremendous effort, a successful effort to delever, right, the balance sheet starting last year. So the balance sheet is in far better shape, right, than it was a year ago. We've also seen a lot of effort to reduce costs. And we've started to see that actually bear fruit, right? We're noticing that in our expenses, right? They're coming down in a variety of different ways. So these are things that are also going to be important for us to see potential uplift in the stock price, right? Which is very, very important. So I am, as we kind of, progress through Q4 2023, I do see a lot of very positive tailwinds, starting with the price of Bitcoin, which is moving in a favorable direction. And by the way, there still isn't even a spot Bitcoin ETF. So Bitcoin is starting to kind of like move up in somewhat of an anticipatory manner, right? Once we actually get the approval of maybe not just one, but maybe a whole series or a whole group of spot Bitcoin ETFs here in the United States, I have read, this might be a little bit pie in the sky, but hey, I have read that we could potentially see upwards of like $1 trillion flowing into these spot Bitcoin ETFs. I mean, if that were to be the case, I do think we're going to start to see, right, a significant amount of price movement in the price of Bitcoin. Something else that's going to be important as we, potentially go into what may very well be Bitcoin's first true stress test, right? As we go into what could very well be a financial crisis, and I don't want to use inflammatory language or hyperbolic, language or anything like that, but hey, if we're getting into a situation here, at least in the United States, right, where there may be a reckoning as it relates to a lot of fiscal sins that have accumulated, over the years, right? That now there's going to be a judgment day of sorts, not to, use, again, theological language or anything like that, but right, if there's going to be a reckoning as it relates, to our finances, right, as a country, Bitcoin is going to have the opportunity to step up and live into its potential, right, as a store of value, as a safe haven asset, as something that can perhaps exist alongside gold, right? Perhaps arguably a high beta version of gold, right? Digital gold, so to speak. And if that were to be the case, well, hey, from what I've seen, and you tell me in the comments if this makes sense or not, but that gold has a market cap of, say, around $12 trillion. I mean, Bitcoin has what, a market cap of maybe, 600 billion, give or take a little bit. So can we see, Bitcoin maybe acquire a market cap of, say, even 2 to 3 trillion? I'm not saying it has to replace gold, right? But I think we're going to have to start seeing, Bitcoin itself live up to its promise and its potential as a store of value within the context of potentially a financial crisis. I'm not hoping for a financial crisis. I'm not rooting for one, but one may nevertheless present itself to us, right? And Bitcoin is going to have to, either perform or not, right? I noticed that today, for example, a lot of stocks, within the publicly traded Bitcoin mining ecosystem, including Stronghold Digital Mining, those stocks seem to be under pressure because they seem to trade to some degree like tech stocks, which is fine. Okay, hey, you want to give us a tech stock multiple of 50 or 100? I'll take it, right? And I'm sure you will as well. But there has to come a point, though, where I think the market also recognizes, wait a minute, this isn't, these are companies, including Stronghold Digital Mining, that are highly, highly levered to the price of Bitcoin. I mean, to be fair, highly levered to hash price. But as I've said before, even leaving aside Bitcoin mining economics, if we see Bitcoin go to 30,000, 40,000, 80,000, 150,000, I strongly believe, in my opinion, that we're going to see Bitcoin mining stocks really start to wake up in a pretty significant way, irrespective of what's going on with hash prices. So listen, with all of that said, it has been 2 years since Stronghold Digital Mining came to market. I am so incredibly proud to have become a co-owner of this company when I did. I'm so incredibly happy to see that a real environmental harm here in my home state of Pennsylvania is being cleaned up, in part thanks to what Stronghold Digital Mining is doing. That is a really big deal. Hey, I love solar, I love wind, okay? Those arguably do no additional harm. What Stronghold Digital Mining is doing is actively cleaning the environment from my perspective. We're actually taking land that was completely dead land and turning it into land that's usable by humans, by animals, by botanical plant life, right? It's almost like you're breathing life back into the land. And there's something incredibly profound about that. There's something incredibly, I think, joyous and just remarkable about that. Something that really I feel proud about and really good about. As somebody, I've said this before, I am an environmentalist, and doing no harm is great. Choosing to practice one's environmental beliefs through 5 to 10 years of litigation, hey, that's great too in some ways. But taking direct hands-on action and arguably liberating the earth of a toxic material that's otherwise just going to stay there forever, that's kind of more in line with my belief system, right? Hey, let's take direct action. Let's get rid of this. Okay, let's do it in a way that's controlled, that's regulated, right? We're not just transferring pollution from the earth to the air, okay? We have incredible emissions controls at these, waste coal reclamation facilities. I mean, it really is an amazing thing. Okay, I'll end by saying this. I was reading some archival, newspaper articles that describe what Panther Creek was able to accomplish. And this is like years ago in terms of some of the, arguably newspaper articles aren't being written every day about these plants. They should be, but they're not. And it talked about like just people looking at the result of what these plants, specifically Panther Creek, has been able to do. And it really, really moved me. It's profound. It really is profound. And I hope to one day be able to show you that just firsthand, because I think seeing is ultimately believing. Okay, with all of that said, hey, let's stay positive. Let's be great. Have a phenomenal weekend. Okay, whatever you're going to do this weekend, be safe, right? And let's hopefully get back together again, as we oftentimes do, next week to talk about all things Stronghold Digital Mining. All right, have a great weekend.